welcome to HGC North America, where today we have a monster day ahead of us as we see some of the top teams face off, and then a surprise team of Octalysis see how many more tricks they have up their sleeve. My name is Jay Howe. Joining me over here is Dreadnought. Dreadnought, we got a big day today, my friend.
We very much do, and it's going to be a lot of it relying on our very first series there between Tempo Storm and Team Freedom. Some of the best in North America. Kind of opening the gates here of week number 7 at HGC Part 2, and I'm excited to see what both teams here have unfolded. And they aren't the only one. I feel like this whole weekend, there's a lot of, what we saw last week. Do we still end up kind of seeing it continue here again in week 7?
We got an exciting weekend. First, we're going to take a look at the standings so we can see where some of these top teams are, because we are most notably talking about that Tempo Storm versus Team Freedom series that will start our day, but we'll get into that in a moment. As this phase goes on, Dreadnought, this is a crucial series, especially for the likes of Tempo Storm. If they win and maybe somebody gets an upset, or maybe we see some map losses on Heroes Hearthside, it could be a chance for them to climb back into the top spot. But the same could almost be said for Team Freedom as we look further down the list.
Yeah, Team Freedom does have a little bit more difficult of a path, as you've painted there, because of the map score at hand. But Tempo Storm, with the victory that they got last weekend over Heroes Hearthside Esports, has opened up opportunities, not only for them, but pretty much any team at the top of North America to possibly take out that spot here as we're looking towards the schedule. In Europe here, we had Roll20 taking on Team Liquid there. Very dominant performance coming out from Liquid. Dignitas actually dropping a game there, Jay. How pretty interesting stuff coming out from Gannett.
A double mage style of Nazeebo Li Ming. We'll see if that comes in because, at the end of the day, Simplicity versus Octalysis. If you missed Octalysis last week, I can tell you, you do not want to miss them today. They've already guaranteed they have more tricks up their sleeve, that Solo Zul. But the one kicking it off today, Team Freedom versus Tempo Storm. And Dreadnought, I was looking at the history of these teams. We go back, and it was the second phase of last year where Team Freedom, they made some changes, and then their rise was just straight to the top. And so they've existed somewhere. Obviously, they fell off a little bit during phase 1, but they've kind of recovered, rebounded around that. They've split their series during phase 2 of last year, phase 1 of this year, and they're looking to come back and redeem themselves because they've already faced off once going over to Tempo Storm. So for Team Freedom, we want to see if they can go ahead and get that split, try and get back into that standings. Else, if they lose today, pretty much guaranteed in the playoffs, still an outside shot at that. So for them, it's redemption in terms of making sure they keep that 1-1 split. But for Tempo Storm, a lot of people started to write them off, especially around Clash, but last weekend, they took down Heroes Hearth, and they instantly put their names back up at the top.
Yeah, and we have the interviews coming up in a short moment, but I did actually hear a little bit of that perspective coming out from Fan. I'm going to be curious to see how much of that actually makes it in the clip, but a lot of it does seem to be hinging around some of the adjustments that they have made going and kind of preparing for the international level versus sticking to, I don't want to say their own meta, because that makes it sound like it's a wild flavor, but a little bit more comfortable with their own picks and within their own play style, and it very much is paying off in dividends, again, according to week number 7.
Well, you mentioned that because they brought in Swoy. We know Swoy, world-renowned, BlizzCon champion, multiple-time champion in all regards. So for him, he came in as the coach right around just when they got back from mid-season brawl, and then we started to see some changes in their draft, some different mage plays, some different style of plays in their drafts that definitely look different, and we saw some of that friction at the Western Clash, and they kind of attributed some of their lack of performance to that. So it has been nice, especially when you come back in. Heroes Hearth, they were the team that ran the table during part 2 of phase 1. They ran the table here in the beginning part of part 1 of phase 2. Unable to do so in the second part. Tempo Storm, we're going to see if they can run it. But before we get further into the series, we actually did hear from both of these teams. Let's check it out.
Now that both us and Heroes Hearth have one loss, we're definitely going to want to just stay right on their tail and make sure that if they mess up at all, we can secure the #1 seed. So we're looking at pretty much every series as a must-win now. And as far as playing against Freedom goes, I think it will be a pretty difficult matchup. They did very well at Western Clash and they seem to be improving, but I'm still pretty confident. We've beaten them 3-0, I think, the last 2 times we've played them, and I think I understand the team pretty well, and as long as we don't mess up majorly, I'm still very confident that we can win.
Well, the Tempo series for us is, to me, a must-win because Tempo beating Heroes Hearth opens up a chance for us to get the #1 seed, so we're gunning for Tempo this week to take over their spot at #2 and hopefully end up as the #1 seed in this part of the season. winning against Tempo is huge for us as a team.
Dreadnought, you mentioned, it's important for these teams to win. We heard from them and Fan, but I want to go back to the point we made about Tempo Storm, and I want to flip the script over towards Team Freedom because they started to show all of a sudden, hey, we're a team fighting team. They showed up against LFM last week, and they tried to bring the fight directly to LFM. And they're like, wait a minute, hold on. This isn't working as well as we had thought. But then the last 3 games of that reverse sweep, they went back to their old school flavor of we are a macro team. And we saw some of the, I guess, most prestigious displays of macro, just the rotations that they had in their final 3 games. They look like the Team Freedom of old, and that's kind of a mixed bag because we sometimes need more team fighting from them.
Exactly. It is a little bit difficult to be able to gauge that, right? Because the first 2 games against LFM, it was a very confusing kind of LFM suddenly out macroing Team Freedom. What is going on at this point in time? And so it is very much a kind of mix of emotions, I feel like, from our perspective here, because getting that level of team fight and that, I want to say, proactive level of play that is demanded out of that is, I can't help but feel like what was missing from Heroes Hearth Esports in the series against Tempo Storm. So suddenly, what we got from them versus LFM in games 1 and 2 is what I can't help but feel like they're going to need if they want to avoid the same results that Heroes Hearth had against Tempo Storm, purely based on this playmaking and proactive level of kind of playstyle. The difference between, again, waiting for a mistake or forcing it. Tempo is the team forcing those mistakes.
You could almost say they forced the tempo of the game, Dreadnought.
You could.
We're also going to see who's going to force the Battleground here as it's time to figure out what Battleground we'll go to kick things off for the day. And it will be Team Freedom taking Tempo Storm to their best Battleground, Dreadnought, in Dragonshire.
Yeah, it's not that surprising in the fact that, we were able to see Team Freedom still select that against LFM in game number 1, but it is a pretty bold statement here. We have talked about some of the interesting trade-offs that can exist in trying to be the team who picks your opponent's best battleground, right? The reversal of the draft role positions can sometimes put you in an advantageous perspective when looking at the entirety of the series. So I like this move. It doesn't feel that bold, but I mean, by no means, though, do you ever go against Tempo Storm on Dragonshire and go, this is going to be an easy game.
Yeah, we saw the ban on Brax's holdout. We know that that's kind of come into play more and more towards the end of the season. We've seen the changes on Brax's. We even saw it last week during that Heroes Hearth and Tempo series. But Sky Temple, we've seen more teams like Octalysis, like Tempo Storm, start to ban that out more and more, stay away from that style. I mean, Sky Temple was where that crazy game happened and where the finality came. I think Caterpillar's heart needs a rest for a week, it seems like.
Yeah, and one thing, too, when looking at some of the draft trends here, I feel like both of these teams have very curious kind of elements in the fact that they like to play a little bit more of their own comfort. Freedom has some kind of deviation when looking at players like Collusion, for instance, is one that kind of stands out to me. And then for Tempo Storm with the offlane, and on a battleground like Dragonshire, the offlane is very important. So I suddenly am wondering, are we still going to see that high priority on the things like the Malthael, for instance, on Glorong, or are we in fact going to see a different style of play here? Because it seemed like they were very sold on that, and with the success they had, don't fix what isn't broke here. Is this draft just blazing through?
They're prepared here. The Urel thing. Now, if we even have time, let's see how well they are prepared. With Urel being picked up this early, does that mean, especially with the first pick Maiev, does Tempo Storm maybe need to go and prioritize that solo laner where it's so prominent?
And this is a really cool position to be in because it's going to answer whether or not that Malthael is actually, in fact, that pick, or whether or not objectively they don't feel like it is going to be that demanding. This is a great position. Honestly, amazing opening so far here already into the draft, coming out from Team Freedom. And Tempo Storm now shows us the answer is nigh. They have the comfortability to be able to wait that out. So if anything, if I was highlighting maybe a bit of concern, definitely out the window now, seeing Tempo willing to risk the second ban phase without priority onto the off lane.
Well, we saw that strong comfort. Muradin has basically rose to the top of the heap, it feels like, in North America. A lot of players are dominating with him. King Caffeine showing his resurgence. This was the battleground and the hero on the Muradin that we saw kind of Zugrug start to take that next step in playing around Fog, getting picks, the aggression, and now I'm curious, does Karazim warrant a ban here by Tempo Storm? Because it does play into Collusion, one of the few players right now that seems to be consistently running Karazim, and far and away probably gets some of the most value outside of maybe some Tiger JK Palms now.
Tiger's Palms, definitely the most highest value when it comes to the Palm, but yeah, absolutely. When looking at the whole kit and kind of caboodle here that Karazim can in fact provide, Collusion is hands down the best there. So much so, drawing a ban in the second ban phase from Tempo Storm. Even if Collusion absolutely desired that Karazim, I look at this draft and go, right now I'm winning. If I'm getting those resources from Tempo Storm into the draft, especially with kind of an off pick like Karazim, Freedom's got to feel good.
I wonder if Freedom, is it Phoenix? Is it Hanzo? Do we have something else in the works? It is going to be the Phoenix, and we get the White Mane. We know the playmaker is there. Some of the White Mane healing, Dreadnought, you and I, we sometimes go back. You know, the results haven't been there. Let's be real here.
Yeah,
it hasn't been there. But when White Mane looks good, you're like, is this hero broken? Like, it's crazy some of the healing numbers you can put out.
It is very, very, honestly, kind of in a vacuum. When you look at White Mane, she is ridiculous with some of the damage output and healing output opportunities that they have coming out from her. But when you get her outside of those specific cooldowns and not the optimal situations, it can become a little bit more difficult. Overall, I will say I started out being a huge skeptic, but the more time that I've gotten to get my hands on the character, I'm more and more convinced. There are a lot of kind of trade-offs, mainly around her W and her heroic use, because the value out of her passive and spreading that is a large dependency on whether or not she'll keep a team alive.
Well, the Phoenix picked up, again, the interchangeability between Yoda and Lutano on that backside. That looks like the Phoenix should be Yoda at this point. Now Lutano, the playmaker on this Hanzo, he's made some stellar plays. He's basically turned it. I mean, you look at Zugrug, his play has been consistent, uniform, it's always there. Collusion, he makes the standout plays when needed. But the guy that seems to be always making those plays is Lutano. He's flashing the smile, he's got the look, he's got the play. I mean, he backs it up on all fronts, Dread.
Yeah, and I don't even think that's just not only him in his level of play, but even among peers. You know, I've heard a lot of teams, since he has kind of come onto the Freedom roster, it's like if they give him any kind of room to play around with, he's going to be the one making plays. So a lot of respect, even kind of from the international scale there for Lutano.
Well, we have the drafts underway here, and that just plays into it. I do like the Johanna pickup. Does give you the wave clear, does give you that flexibility. We know they like to control those rotations. No Garrosh this time, and I think that we see Johanna sometimes picked up to maybe counter something like a White Mane. If you can interrupt the channel ability on some of those heals, you can Iron Skin, condemn in, make sure it doesn't get interrupted. You have the Blessed Shield, several low cooldown tools to make sure and deal with that style of play. Either way, I believe we are ready here for game number 1 between Tempo Storm and Team Freedom.
Starting off here in the blue, ladies and gentlemen, it is Team Freedom, where we're going to have Collusion representing the White Mane. Lutano is on Hanzo. Zugrug will be playing the Murden. Nasmus is on Urel. And last up here, Phoenix played by Yoda.
Our hype match right out of the gate. We start Friday just like we ended Sunday with the hype match. It's going to be Glaurung. He'll be on Malthael. Caterpillar, he's going to be on Johanna. Finn, of course, the newer player, starting to make his presence very well felt. He's going to be on the Rainer. Fan the flex on Maiev. In June, no bananas this game. He's going to be on Deckard.
A little bit of a deviance there when looking at the level 1s coming out from White Mane. Going with the Clemency rather than the kind of removal of the Despair or the impact of your heals as you kind of stack multiple there and getting the Despair talent. We'll see how that kind of comes to light here as the level 1 wave already won pretty heavily by Team Freedom. Good opener here to Dragonshire.
Well, let's dig deeper in that. It's one of the things that I mentioned is that, and this is, look at this positioning. Zugrug, this is not our normal Zugrug play. This is something you can get away with as a Murd, and you just, hey, I'm going to disrupt your rotation, same way it works on maybe Tomb of the Spider Queen, things of that nature. But with that Clemency picked up, it goes back to my point about Johanna. With the Condemn, I mean, that's a channeled skill for 3 seconds. If you can go through there, and then you can get the interrupt, take away some of that value of that level 1 talent, it's where Johanna does kind of fit that role.
It is an interesting adjustment, and what it does do as a talent is it changes that kind of trade-off that I was talking about with spreading of your passive a little bit more, because a lot of that passive value comes out of the channel of a full W onto a single target, getting the damage mixed with an E, not even considering the play opportunities post 13 with the root. A lot of it comes down to again, just the damage output she gets to cycle that. So now that we see that, a little less dependency there, but far more overall kind of sustain as a team fighter, and also some pretty cool synergies, possibly depending on what level 20s we see picked up.
Well, there's the Disrupt for now. Zugrug is saying, look, you're not passing this unless I let you pass through this, else you're going to use some cooldowns to get by. So they're disrupting that, but for Tempo Storm, they control the bottom. And Cattle did find Zugrug through. He's going to try and turn on this, see if maybe he can get some help. As you see, Fan on that Maiev. Ever since the role started to solidify Dreadnought for Tempo Storm, Fan has really been making plays on the heroes very similar. There's going to be an interrupt. Zugrug, he's not making it out of here. This should be first blood in just a moment.
The question is how much time can he in fact buy? Not going to be a lot there as the last Fan kind of thrown out from Fan. Get the damage out, and first blood here for Tempo.
Fan by Fan. It is always interesting when you watch pro play. It's like, look, if you know you have an advantage and you're skirmishing, and then all of a sudden they turn to fight into you, you're like, wait a minute. oh, I'm being debated right now. And you're like, I should walk away, but that right there worked out very well. And the interrupts on the cooldown now have led to our DK to start this game. 2.5 minutes in, that one kill, that one rotation has netted Tempo Storm an early advantage.
Yeah, the biggest thing about that for Tempo Storm and why they have been able to achieve so much out of this is not only did they find themselves a pick, hold on, looking for another one here as Lutano needs the natural agility over the wall, not going to use it right away. Eventually, we'll get the response out there, but bringing it back was to Tempo Storm had an opportunity to pick themselves up pressure with mercenaries on the bottom half and then still end up getting a kill throughout the mid lane. That provided double the pressure down below with a man out on Freedom, and that again leads to a very early Dragonite that we almost never kind of see on Dragonshire, especially when looking at the top here of North America.
I will say though, an early DK at this point, yeah, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes in, we don't expect much out of it. But the fact that they already got the entire mid wall down, and we've seen that rotation already, keeping Phoenix there and Murden basically being the gatekeeper between the lanes, that's a big advantage. That gives you more chase opportunity on these kills. You don't necessarily have to look for them directly in the middle. You can now be more aggressive with Tempo Storm if they want to counter those the same way that they got kill number 1.
The one thing I find very interesting with Tempo Storm's approach to this earlier stages of laning is them running with a bit more of a kind of 1-2-2 approach. When normally you have the Maiev on your team, you'd be looking for a 1-3-1 with aggressive kill potential within the 3-man, you know, kind of dominate the rotations after you end up getting those kills afterwards. But instead, it's abusing the Johanna mixed with post 4 and the bonus damage that you get from Maiev with the fan. It kind of puts you in a cool position to where it's a 2-man clear and then an aggressive rotation outward. Freedom, as you pointed out, Murden doing his best to kind of anchor and stall out those rotations, but Tempo Storm, I feel, has started this laning from a disadvantageous kind of position and have done a great job to recover.
That slow clear is now going to allow time for Tempo Storm to come up here. We will see Urel obviously can hold point, but for Team Freedom, they're bringing up several members, Dreadnought. Is there an opportunity maybe they try and look for a kill of their own with their camp?
It's important that they do, because as we take a sniff towards the bottom lane, Malthael is getting himself a very free clear over that camp. Lutano now knows that. With that scatter arrow, he knows that Malthael has to be prioritizing this bottom camp, but it's going to be too late there. Tempo Storm now find themselves those small victories at all points of the battleground is a large reason why they are one of the most feared, if not the most feared, Dragonshire team we have.
It's almost interesting how, no matter the circumstances, it seems like, all right, you're going to do this, that's okay. We have creative ways to deal with that, because how often do we see a solo Malthael 4.5 minute solo rotation onto a night camp?
Yeah.
How often do we actually see that? Tempo Storm just seems to be able to adapt on the fly a little better than a lot of teams.
It's taken that kind of predictable rotations or circumstances that they're expecting out of Freedom and just kind of diverting a little bit away from that and really getting the upper hand. It's showing Tempo Storm very solid understanding of the next couple of minutes ahead, because those kind of decisions have to be made 30, 40 seconds in advance here as the next Dragon Shines have actually spawned here. Control of bottom being picked up by Tempo Storm as Raynor doing his best to control over that. We see Fan making the rotation, joining Glarong up towards top. No aggression, at least not yet, as we see the Shadow used more for wave clear here than kill.
Ever since we saw some buffs on that, you know, it does help Maiev in certain areas. That's one of them. So right now, because Team Freedom did manage to get that top wall, that did allow them to at least maintain somewhat in the experience department. They're not too far down in that deficit there. Collusion, he's going to be locked in. If level 10 is picked up here in the middle of this is a lockdown. It might not even be needed. The playmaker there, June comes in, he's like, check this out. The Sapphire, meanwhile, fans letting us know who was there.
Yeah, not even using the Warden's Cage there. That was just purely the last rights opportunity. Tempo Storm picking up multiple kills at multiple angles here all over Dragonshire. This is just, I mean, it hasn't been major breaking points, J-How, but it very much has been dominance from Tempo Storm here in the earlier stages. I can't help but feel like it is just going to be a single moment here over the next kill and possibly a breaking point in this match. Freedom.
Got him. Oh, that Raider's Raider.
Max range kind of homing missile. Tracking it down there.
It feels bad because it's just wiggling at you, and you're like, gosh dang it, that's going to kill me. It's a feels bad man moment. Speaking of feels bad man, we're going to see if Fan was going to try and pull the trigger there. Instead, not. He's going to go ahead and fall back. Glaurung's going to hold position. Yoda unable to capture in return. Yoda's going to have to be careful here. Last rights is 4 seconds. Yeah, 4 seconds now and counting. He's got to dip out of there quick.
I thought for sure that would be maybe an overcommitment there. Great aggression coming out from Glaurung there in the off lane, and that was, you know, kind of reiterated by Cattle last week in the interview, talking about how much pressure Glaurung is able to put on that off lane as that solo Malthael. being brought to light here. The siege continuing now for Tempo Storm. Fan does have a Warden's Cage out of this in case things get a little bit hairy over the siege, but it looks like Tempo is going to pick up this bottom fort and cycle out the pressure here. Now, the question is to mid or to the key front wall. Their body language very much shows that they're worried about mid, and I feel like this is purely based on how early of a Dragon Knight this is. If anything, I would actually not even mind some pressure up towards top if they would like. But it looks like 13's the focus.
We have just under 15 seconds left. As you said, Maev is in that, does have mobility, does have multiple ways to get out. There's going to be Fan dipping out. The Dragon Arrow nicely worn there by Caterpillar. I cannot explain how clutch that is. It's so small. It's so small. Don't get me wrong. But Cattle saw it coming. He's like, look, Iron Skin, I'll wear this. We'll walk away. That is, it's a big play, but I guarantee you in comms, it's probably like every day, all day. It's normal, right? But it's plays like that that separate the good from the great, and Cattle is one of the greats.
Very much, and I think it also brings to light why oftentimes, you know, I think a lot of people watch Hanzo's throw Dragon's arrows. You'll notice an approach, a scouting arrow, a scatter arrow, and then suddenly Hanzo's always pull back. It is for that exact reason. They're trying to avoid fog to know the predictability of the initiation out of that Dragon's Arrow. Lutano didn't really have a situation to kind of adjust there. That very much was a, hey boys, we've got to be able to pull the trigger now, but it's just showing, again, some of the ins and outs here of HGC North America. And Tempo Storm now use that clever play to get the momentum back into their favor, paint the battleground red, gonna double stack camps as they always seem to do here, and focus the siege down on bottom.
9 minutes in, let's go. Tempo Storm, this is guaranteed keep wall, but let's see if they can make more happen. Fan, of course, will be the main initiator. We could see the minute a wall goes down, especially the gate, and you have that vision, then you can really be aggressive. Yoda, he's pretty much the best clear that they have in this department. We'll see if he can go. We didn't get Explosive Arrow from Hanzo at level 4, so it's a different approach to how you can clear this, and right now the entire gate wall is down. That's all Tempo Storm really does at this point, because we look up, there's almost a level and a half lead.
Yeah, the biggest thing, too, beyond the experience, is actually the timing of the retreat. Puts it to where Tempo is going to have a pretty ample amount of time to respond to the night camp and then put themselves to where they control the top shrine and then can manipulate a rotation down to bottom. That doesn't seem that drastic to be able to control one of the two shrines, but when you're fighting over the shrine you desire versus the one you need to, or your opponent possesses, it puts you in a situation to where your Dragon Knight drastically increases. Hold up, Warden's Cage here. This is a 4 versus 5, and Tempo Storm gets a kill.
Here we go, see if they can get more. They only get one, but Nasmus, he's being bounced around back and forth. Nasmus, he's going to re-engage at least, buy some time, and Zugrug turning around again. They're holding point. Cattle's going to be there on the backside. Fan is wrecking Team Freedom.
Fan is just not afraid of anything there. Diving the backline, getting that 2 versus 2, which, by the way, he was the man who initiated that 4 versus 3. Nagaran with the flank. Last rights. Lutano will, in fact, have something to say about that for a moment. They're skirting away for a minute longer. Tether pulling back Nasmus. No kill obtained there, but Tempo Storm surely a Dragon Knight soon.
Oh,
look at
on
that
a pale horse. Did he?
Oh, my. He gets away.
13. That's, I mean, that's got to be a pretty terrifying feeling when you've got the Malthael riding you down on a pale horse, but Lutano able to survive. But for Tempo Storm, we've got a 2-level lead. It's about to be 16 talents here, and they've got themselves another DK.
Interesting moment there. You can see Tempo questioning if they want to try and get that initiation. Then once the kind of kick coming out from the Dragon Knight, giving that up. I think it's a bit safer to this route purely because the 16 was not available for Tempo Storm quite yet, but now that it is, wasting no time here with the rotation, focusing over the bottom peak, likely to be theirs. Team Freedom without the 16 talents here pretty much need to forfeit this. You see them diving past the backline. Ardent Defender used a bit early, and Tempo, the onslaught over the base here of Team Freedom continues.
Yeah, this is a little slower than I think they anticipated. The DK will get that. They still have 25 seconds left, but only 17% left on that DK. So there's not a lot they can gain out of it, but you can see Zugrug's position. He's trying to see, is somebody willing to pass through here? But they're going to start to run out of options. So they're going to have to potentially take a fight. Fan is sniffing out in any way that he can, but I think for Team Freedom, they recognize Urel top. The rest of the team, they were hoping maybe they could find one person, but for them, they find themselves down a talent tier and structurally significantly behind.
Normally, when you find yourself at this kind of position in the shoes of Team Freedom, you have to be looking at where you expect the Knight or Shrine rotation for Tempo Storm over the even footing fight, because if you fail to be able to predict it, you suddenly put yourself kind of in that ring around of rosy circumstance. And here they go trying to find one, but they're going to get flanked by Tempo Storm as the Warden's Cage already going to be dropped there. 2-man tether out from Fan, but the Stormbolt does end up connecting, bring him back. Stay a while and listen, but the 4-man Dragon Zero Fan coming in, hitting the 2-3 cleaves back to back there with the last rights down. Tempo Storm wipes the floor here with Freedom and picks up this top 4.
Fan is just
a monster
at this game. I was trying to highlight. Look at this. The Warden's Cage goes in. Watch Fan. He's at the left of your screen. He's going to move towards the top. There's one reset. The Dragon Arrow is going to hit. There's another. There's another. And you know what? Glaurung was in there ripping some souls out as well. Team Freedom is struggling against this aggression from Tempo Storm. And I would give all the credit in the world to Tempo Storm. The way that they've come out and manufactured these kills behind the, I mean, look, Johanna is nice, but Fan on Maiev, he's like, don't worry, guys, I can start this too.
And I think a lot of that does come down to some of the points that we brought up early in the laning situation. Tempo Storm's 1-2-2. Team Freedom responded and matched to the laning situation equal to Tempo Storm, but Tempo Storm had a winning 1-2-2 composition, again, because the Johanna and the Maiev. Getting the kill potential and the wave clear opportunities together has really net them a lot. Now with the double camp on top, 5 seconds out from a Dragon Knight, surely Tempo Storm here and picking up the bottom camp. They're just prepping this battleground for a Dragon Knight, and Team Freedom has to force here with the 16 window.
Yeah, Yrel was in the top lane, but Team Freedom realizes, look, the window is very small right now. If we're going to get back into this, we have to fight. And right now, Zugrug, he's by himself, ends up dwarf tossing over, does have that extra toss range, but with the camps pushing that top lane, that could, I don't know how much is left there yet, that could inevitably take down that keep if they're not careful. There's so much room in there, the guys on the front like, can I get some of this too?
You can actually do that a little bit when killing them yourselves. It's just a nice little tactic to minimize the damage. But yeah, it is a little awkward there. You know, the Death Bridge can only hold so much death, Jay-How, and those minions are not receiving it fast enough. Bottom Shrine controlled here by Tempo. Nasmus tries to go in. Beautiful Iron Skin once again coming out from Cattle. It's going to keep them alive. On a Pale Horse, Glaurung going up towards the top lane will secure that. Zugrug with the last attempt to initiate there, and Fan, go ahead, drop the Gen G spray there after that bolt.
Can you blame him?
No.
I mean, I make that play. I'm probably trying to be like Fan too. And right now, 19.5 for Tempo Storm. They can be patient, but now we see Glaurung, he's made his way down. Nasmus, he's going in on the backside. Yoda has neutralized the bottom, but the fight's going to rage on here at the top as they've got one man locked down for now, but Glaurung, he's going in. There's the Dragon's Arrow. See if they can get the first takedown. They do.
They end up getting the kill on the Glaurung, but there's still so much mercenary pressure here that Tempo Storm, if they can cut out and survive, they're going to be fine. Look at that huge root coming out from Collusion. Even bigger root there from June, locking down 4. And with that, Freedom will end up getting the retreat there. The top camp has been dealt with due to that keep, but bottom 3 catapults now amounting here. The wave will not spawn for another 10 seconds, meaning that is core damage if nobody makes it back here for Freedom. About 20% if I was to guess.
They're going to get that. They're also going to try and double up on this push. You can see on the minimap, Hanzo started that siege camp in the bottom. He's going to try and make sure that they amplify the push. It also kind of keeps the catapults at bay. It doesn't really amplify the push so much as it just kind of neutralizes things because that lane is so far pushed out. That's going to be there in the DK. Well, there's not a lot you can do with it right now. It is going to eat a lot of free damage right here. That's 20% plus.
Yeah, and what you see right now happening with the Dragon Knight is essentially it's being used as that vision information kind of control, and that's why it is the noble sacrifice outward. I agree with you. It feels like a little bit too much damage has been taken there for Freedom, but the main goal here is scouting out Tempo Storm and trying to figure out where they are. In fact, just in case, you know, somebody split, they can look for a pick in some way, shape, or form. Because at this point, it is dire circumstances here for Team Freedom. Now with their Dragon Knight, only top 4 to claim for their own in a couple of seconds, and still no 20 talents here. Tempo is going to get Zugrug out of there.
Oh, he's locked in deep. We're going to see the root on one side. Last rights will take down Zugrug. That's kill number 1. Yoda got slept in the middle of that. Nasmus trying to lend some support. Yoda gets the warp out, but now will that be enough to get the rest of the takedown? Glaurung making the plays, getting the body block, but Lutano has some agility to get out of there. Nasmus, I'll be surprised if he makes it out. He does not. 2 members down. Tempo Storm, they might just siege up and try and end this right now.
They're going to start the siege. Yoda does have the salvo. Maybe going to be a tool he needs here to be able to hold this off. Tempo Storm does have the Warden's Cage, though, so if Fan pulls the trigger there and ends up getting a tether, Tempo Storm might just look for a kill and then look to end the game. Blind goes out. Fan still not going to go yet. Salvo gets interrupted there. Great job by Caterpillar. Tempo Storm trying to get the siege here. Shielding on the core has now been removed. 90 and counting as Cattle still taken away away.
Still 8 seconds away before Zugrug is back on the battleground. 70% falling. Yoda goes in. There's going to be the salvo opportunity. Here comes the damage. There's going to be kill number 1 on to Raynor. There's going to be the resets, though, again for Fan on those Fan of Knives. The last right will confirm another kill. 67% and only 2 members here for Team Freedom.
Cattle Indestructible is going to get popped, trying to get some of those potions here from June. Fan goes in again. Number 2. Yoda warps that one away. Zugrug healing away with that healing static at 13, able to kite out. And now Nasmus joining the ranks once more here of Freedom as they're still holding on. Stay a while and listen. Yoda cannot go down here. They will not be able to hold that up. Team Freedom lose the Phoenix, and now will Tempo be able to take this 35% on the core.
Tempo Storm, it looks like they've done it with a 4 versus 2 advantage despite Zugrug and team going in. This is 7%, 4, and now 0. Team Freedom will take the L here in game number 1 against Tempo Storm and Dreadnought. That was a very, very impressive game by Tempo Storm in game number 1 on their best battleground that was picked by Team Freedom.
And again, there may be the major argument of like trying to be like, well, we knew we would struggle against Tempo, so if we pick it, maybe that's going to be a tool that later in this line is something that works out for Team Freedom. But as it stands, you are very right. Tempo Storm, it was clean. They dominated in macro. They dominated in kill potential. And most of the time when looking at Dragonshire, if you win those variables, you do in fact win the game. But the biggest thing is how little they let up on the gas, I think is really the element there. They gained small victory 1, 2, and 3 in the earlier stages with the picking of Giants while still getting the kill on mid, 4-minute Dragonite. And from that point on, it was like, Freedom, what are you going to do?
I remember last year when I referenced Phase 2, they split. Phase 2 of last year, Phase 1 of earlier this year, they split. Can Team Freedom maybe split this one with Tempo Storm already picking up the victory? And you brought up a good point because it was at this time last year, Tempo Storm, they would get these types of leads and they would let off the gas. And that was one of their biggest cruxes going into BlizzCon of last year. It's like, guys, you get such a good start. You get such a good start. What happened? Those questions are never asked anymore of this team. They now know how to finish these games. They know how to control the games from beginning to end. So it's always fun to kind of see the evolution of this team where that was a big question from all realms last year to where it's no longer a question anymore.
Yeah, and as I said, I think, kind of to add to that, that is part of the reason some of the play from Team Freedom versus LFM last week is so interesting coming into this series. And even more so when I can't help but feel like after the winner's interview from Cattle last week over the victory in Heroes Hearth Esports, he was talking about their failure to force the issue and force a problem if you in fact make a mistake. They wait for you to make the mistake, and I thought it was only fitting that Tempo Storm, after that kind of bringing it back here, was willing to look the second best team or the best, equal competitor in North America, and they were willing to say, you're the ones who can't force the problem. You're the ones sitting back and being kind of that passive level of play, because they very much are not that roster anymore.
Well, we'll see.